Will the Bengals take down the Browns, pick up Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow's first win in Cleveland in the 100th edition of the Battle of Ohio? It's time for our keys to victory. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapine of allbengals.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. Well, because when there's breaking news, we have you covered. Whether it was Thursday night with Joe Burrow's contract extension being agreed to, he's got a whole lot of money coming his way, or what happens next, which is a video that we dropped on Friday. We have you covered all season long right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So tell a Bengals friend that that is also a Bengals fan to subscribe to this channel. Let's continue to build. We're slowly creeping close to 40,000 subscribers. We hope to get there this season, and the Bengals hope to get off to a fast start this season, and that's where we will start. Week 1, it's Bengals, it's Browns. The Browns have a ton of high expectations coming into this season, from Deshaun Watson to their remade defensive line, a new defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz. And that's where I want to start the chess match between Joe Burrow, Brian Callahan, the Bengals offensive coordinator, Zach Taylor, certainly, Dan Pitcher, the quarterback's coach, and this defense with Jim Schwartz leading the show. They were able to get Zadarius Smith alongside Myles Garrett. They added multiple defensive linemen. And so they, on the interior defensive tackles, so they look different. Denzel Ward feels like he's going to play. And so all of those signs pointing towards this being a tough matchup for the Bengals. The Bengals want to do two things at a really, really high level: push the ball downfield, explosive plays, and throw it. That's how they do it. Throw the ball. Well, if Myles Garrett is getting pressure on Joe Burrow, if these corners are able to keep these receivers in check, or Burrow doesn't have enough time to throw it the way he wants to, well, then that has been an issue in these matchups. That's why Joe Burrow hasn't won yet in Cleveland in the past couple of matchups. He hasn't always struggled against the Browns. That's a BS narrative, but the Browns are a tough matchup, and the past couple games in Cleveland have been tough. That said, I do think that this Bengals offense should be able to keep Myles Garrett at bay. You have Orlando Brown Jr. on one side, Jonah Williams on the other. It's going to be interesting to see how Jim Schwartz uses Garrett. Does he put him just opposite Jonah? Because that's been a tough matchup for Williams in the past. We will see. But the other part of this is, how does this offense evolve? I certainly think they need to take a step forward this year. They're as talented as any offense, certainly on paper, that the Bengals have had during this run over the past couple of seasons. Jamar Chase looks as good as I've seen him. T. Higgins looks like he's gotten even better. Joe Burrow doesn't really look any different than he did pre-calf injury. And that is a big, big step in the right direction. And that's something I'll be looking at as well. Can Joe Burrow operate in the pocket, roll out, move, his playmaking ability? Obviously, they have to protect him. That's key number 1. But 2, with that calf issue, is that still lingering at all? Or is he able to move freely, run, jump, slide, skip, do whatever he needs to do to make plays? I think that that's certainly something that we'll be monitoring throughout the game. And so those are 2 keys. Joe Burrow's health, because I think his arm is just fine. He's throwing the ball like crazy. But the other one is protecting him. And then on defense, there's no one in the NFL with more pressure on him than Deshaun Watson. I could think about it a little bit farther, a little bit longer to make sure, but I'm confident in saying that. Deshaun Watson, $230 million guaranteed over 4 years, and he struggled last year. Obviously, we know about the off-the-field stuff. He's tried to put that past him. Is he going to be Houston Texans' Deshaun Watson? Is he going to be better than that? Is he going to be what we saw last year, where he really, really struggled? I think this Bengals defense desperately needs to get off to a quick start. So what does that mean? Shut down Nick Chubb. Do not let 24 take over the game. This is a big DJ Reader game. You need Josh Tupou. You need the interior of this line to step up. No Joseph Osai. So that means you're going to probably rely on Miles Murphy, some certainly Cam Sample. This defensive front 7 needs to win and needs to be able to contain Nick Chubb. Because if you do that and you put some pressure on Deshaun Watson, and I don't mean physical pressure, I mean pressure to perform, who knows what happens, especially if they get off to a slow start on offense. If you force them to go 3 and out to start the game on their first drive and then 3 and out again on their second drive, that pressure is going to mount on Watson's shoulders, mount on head coach Kevin Stefanski, who comes in on the hot seat this year. Browns fans are fired up, but that will quickly turn if you can get off to a quick start in Cleveland. And it should. I get why there's pressure on these guys, but they do have some interesting weapons. And I think that's the other part of this is Elijah Moore. How does he fit in? We know what Amari Cooper brings. The good news for the Bengals is they have Chidobe Awuzie back in the mix, healthy, looks good in practice. We'll see how he does. But Elijah Moore is a weapon. Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku. I like their skill players outside of Nick Chubb, who's really, really good, of course, arguably the best running back in football. So the question, will these safeties, and we can just say the secondary as a whole, because Cheeto is a question mark a bit just coming back from that injury, even though, like I said, I think he looks great. Cam Taylor-Britt in year 2, I think he's going to take a step forward. We know what Mike Hilton is at that nickel spot. But can this secondary eliminate big plays, keep Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, who's probably going to move around the formation a ton? There could be some creativity there. Can they keep these guys in check? Because if so, this Bengals defensive line should be able to get after Watson a bit. Trey Hendrickson looks poised for a huge, huge year. Sam Hubbard coming off of a career year. This is a big Hubbard game as well because of how good he is against the run at that edge spot or even on the interior, depending on where they play him. Mostly edge, though, I would say this week. So the keys to me, can you protect Joe Burrow? Burrow's calf being 100% or close to it so he can still make like he normally does. And then on defense, a fast start would do wonders, and new look secondary holding up, and of course, stopping Nick Chubb. Those are like the 5 things that if you can do those, and I could say cliche things like turnovers, of course, all of those things matter. And that's something Zach Taylor said when asked about last year's week 1, which was a circus game that the Bengals should have won, but they turned it over a bunch. I expect Joe Burrow to be much, much better. I know he does. He's not in the same spot that he was a year ago going into week 1. Much better spot. And I think he plays at a high level. And my prediction is coming up in a second. But make sure you get to Rivertown Inquiry and rivertowninquiry.com. Doug and his team do an awesome job. I know they just printed a bunch of orange and black gear. Get yours. Support local by going to rivertowninquiry.com. Okay, it's prediction time. First prediction of the season. I'll take the Bengals. 24-20. I think it's a close game. It's always tough playing in Cleveland. Wouldn't even be shocked if the Browns score first. Maybe it's a field goal. It's weird because they have had kicking issues and swapped out their kicker at the end of training camp. But I do think the Bengals find a way here. No Bengals coach has started 0-5 in Cleveland, which is interesting to me. Zach Taylor is 0-4 in Cleveland. I think he gets his first win there. Burrow gets his first win, and the Bengals start the season 1-0 after last year where they shoulda, coulda, woulda, but didn't. And obviously that's a game a lot of people look back on and say it cost the Bengals later in the season. The Bengals get it done in Cleveland, 24-20. Make sure you check out all of our videos from this week, from reacting to Joe Burrow, our feature with Ted Karras, which is great, great stuff on this offensive line, on Joe Burrow. If you haven't watched it, it's worth the watch right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Plus, we've had interviews with Orlando Brown Jr., Jonah Williams, Irv Smith Jr., Evan McPherson. Check them all out right here on CBT. So for Andrew Fox Miller, our channel coordinator, who's, man, just crushing it this week, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you in Cleveland right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.